Welcome, everyone. My name is Lindsay Malone, and Advancing Athletics is proud to partner with the Ohio Tactical Officers Association to present our performance and wellness platform for tactical athletes, Fuel, Move, Recover. We hope to introduce you to FMR at OTOA Con 2020, but we'll happily do so at the conference in 2021. This webinar will center on the fuel portion of our Fuel, Move, Recover platform. We are clinical experts in human performance and wellness that offer free seminars for first responders like you and coaching for individuals through advancingathletics.com. Stay tuned until the end of the presentation for a special promotion we have for OTOA members.
So you can get to know me a little bit. I wanted to tell you about my background. So I am the fuel lead at Fuel, Move, Recover, meaning all things fuel, all things food, nutrition is what I'm going to be talking about and helping our community members with. I am an integrative and functional medicine dietitian and an adjunct professor at Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. And there I teach as part of a wellness curriculum for future physicians. So I'm looking at things like exercise, nutrition, emotional wellness in our future healthcare providers. And prior to that, I practiced as a clinical dietitian at the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine. I was with Cleveland Clinic for about 10 years and had a really great experience providing care to a variety of people. So that's my background and how I'm able to come to you today with great new cutting edge information, and hopefully I can provide you with some things that will help you day to day. So I'm going to introduce functional medicine to you first because many people have not heard of this, but functional medicine is a particular type of medicine that looks at the root cause of disease rather than symptoms. It views the body as one whole organism rather than separate sort of pieces, parts. And we use the tree analogy pretty frequently here because it's a great way to compare and contrast different approaches to disease, health, medicine, etc. So conventional medicine typically focuses on the top or the branches of the tree where you see all the different organ systems, the immune system, the cardiovascular system, the gastroenterology system. And so functional medicine is going to dive deep down to the roots and really focus in on creating a strong root system to prevent disease, to treat disease, and to really form a healthy human being. So here we have sleep and relaxation, exercise and movement, nutrition, stress management, building good relationships. And our Fuel, Move, Recover team is really focused here on these roots. So when we think about building an optimal sort of physiology, looking at both mental and physical health, what we want to do is create a really strong root system so that no matter what challenges we're facing or sort of what's coming our way, we can withstand because we have this really strong root system. And so those roots are comprised of nutrition, so fuel for activity, repairing, building tissues. We have sleep and relaxation. This is where a lot of the recovery is going to take place for both mind and body. A lot of times we think about just, our skeletal muscles, the muscles in our arms and our legs sort of repairing, but sleep is when your mind recovers too. So any extraneous information that you've gathered throughout the day that may be clogging up your thoughts gets thrown out when we're sleeping. So sleep and relaxation, really important. Exercise and movement, so building muscle and also practicing, what we want to bring to our jobs and our life. So whatever we're practicing in terms of exercise and movement becomes sort of more permanent the more we practice it. Stress management. So if we're under a good deal of stress, which many of us are, we see that our immune function is impaired, our digestion is impaired, and so it is, a domino effect. And so managing stress is really important. And then also maintaining good relationships. So our relationships with our family, friends, teammates, colleagues impact performance, stress, and fatigue. And so you can see when we're talking about roots, none of these components are really independent. They're all sort of woven together. And so giving attention to each area here is really important. What are the issues impacting health for you and your colleagues? So we look at sort of the community of tactical athletes, firemen, policemen, military, other first responders. Some common themes that we see with work environment are, shifts and working random or kind of odd shifts overnight, early morning, late evening hours, lack of consistency in schedule and duties, sort of having to do a lot of different things, and that really impacting the type of healthy lifestyle routine you're able to implement. Exposure to toxins, just in a general work environment. Looking at time constraints, not having a whole lot of time to shop, plan healthy meals, cook, get to the gym, etc. Injuries, work injuries that may impact, personal life as well. Not knowing when you're going to eat next because you are on the job and other things are, garnering for your attention. High stress levels, which impact our hormones. And again, that's something like a domino effect. Lack of control over food choices. So depending on, your job, where you are, what is going on, someone else may be choosing, what you're going to be eating, preparing what you're going to be eating. And so that can make it difficult to make good food choices. And then maintaining fitness level and good health through the different seasons of life. So with all of these things, you throw into the equation aging and trying to maintain that peak fitness level to come to your job and your personal life, at the top of your game, that can be somewhat challenging. So, what we see a lot are sort of compensatory behaviors, overeating because you're hungry because you didn't get to eat at a regular meal time, excessive alcohol and binge drinking to deal with stress to help try and promote relaxation, smoking, poor diet, so high in sugar and refined grains. You see the donut here, and something to think about is, these convenience foods that give our blood sugar kind of a boost and give you sort of a false sense of energy followed by a crash. That's something that when you're sleep deprived, under a lot of stress, and you need a little energy, a lot of times reaching for sugar or caffeine is going to sort of put a Band-Aid over it in the moment. And so these are unhealthy behaviors that we see a lot. And what's the result of that? We have all these common health conditions that I'm sure you are all well aware of: arthritis, obesity, heart disease, PTSD, anxiety, depression. So we see, both mental and physical health conditions here. My personal favorite at the bottom here that I stole from functional medicine physician Dr. Mark Hyman is FLC syndrome, which stands for feel like crap syndrome. So that's when you don't necessarily have a formal diagnosis, but you feel tired, run down, your endurance level is not what it used to be, and you just don't really feel like doing much. So these are all things that can be addressed, with looking at the root system. Poor health, is a hazard. So when we think about something like carrying extra body weight, a lot of times, especially in the media and in our culture, it's looked at as a vanity issue, right? Maybe not looking your best, but it can really cause some damage to your job performance and your quality of life. So any of these health conditions can interfere with job performance, increase risk of injury, and cause a reduction in confidence, either your own self-confidence, confidence in your colleagues, confidence in your leaders. So something really important that we do want to address. So when we think about this tree analogy, a lot of times the conventional medical model is addressing these issues on the branches of the tree and putting a Band-Aid over it with a medication, or sort of focusing on the symptoms rather than the problem. And that's not to say that medication doesn't have a role in healthcare, because certainly it does. But how much sense would it make if you had a dead tree in your backyard and you were only watering the branches of the tree, right? This tree is not coming back to life unless you really focus on the roots. So something that we need to think about. Disease prevention, treatment, reversal is going to happen when we focus on those root systems. And lucky for you, because you're here listening to this, we know already that you've started thinking about how you can change, how you can improve, how you're feeling. And in the stages of change, this would be pre-contemplation, sort of thinking about what can I do, what is the problem that I'm having if I'm not feeling well, maybe I'm not breathing well, maybe it's harder for me to run or lift something that I need to move for my job. And from there, you move into contemplating what it is you can do, learning about how to make those changes, and then you start doing. And for some of you, that from start to finish is going to be a little bit shorter. For others, it may take a while to think through what it is that you want to do, and may even include falling back on some old habits from time to time. But the important thing is really to keep moving forward and to start practicing these healthy habits so they become permanent. So focusing on the basics for nutrition is a really great place to start. A lot of times we have sort of this shiny object syndrome with nutrition, where we're focusing on things like tart cherry juice or the latest supplement for inflammation. And those things can be helpful, but first we sort of have to get down those basics. Water, so important. Maintaining good hydration with mostly water, getting away from the energy drinks, the sodas, the coffees, that kind of thing, and focusing on getting enough water is a really important first step. Required for every metabolic reaction in the body, keeps the body cool. If you're sweating a lot in your job, really important to maintain good hydration. And then eating enough to support the activity that you're doing. So it doesn't really matter how much protein you're taking in. If you're not getting the right amount of calories, then that protein is not going to be used for your muscles. It's going to be used just to supply very basic energy needs. And the calories that you're taking in is going to be a little bit different for everyone. If you're wanting to lose weight, maybe a little bit of a calorie deficit. If you're wanting to build muscle or sort of bulk up a little bit, perhaps you need more calories. Beyond that, we have good carbs, incorporating high fiber, things like fruits, vegetables, sweet potatoes, beans. That's going to be your primary energy source. Fats are also used for energy, but they also have the role of transporting vitamins and being a building block of hormones and providing some satisfaction or satiety to the meal. So if you think about eating a piece of toast by itself, right, maybe not very satisfying. Put some peanut butter on that toast, it's going to stay with you a little bit longer. So fats are really important, but particularly choosing healthy fats. And then finally, we have protein. So again, protein is used primarily for building and maintaining muscle, bone, and other tissues. It also provides some satisfaction or satiety to the meal. But if you're not getting enough calories, it is going to be used for energy. So we have our basics. One thing to keep in mind here with the basics is that it's not a simple equation of getting the right protein grams, the right carbohydrate grams, the right calories. It's true that food is energy, calories, but food is also information for your cells. So newer research, meaning the last 10 to 15 years, has shown that food actually interacts with your genes. So previously we thought, you get your genetic material, it's sort of the blueprint for how you're going to be, what sort of health you will have throughout your life if you're prone to any disease states, and that it was, pretty static. But now we know that it is more fluid, and you are able to turn on and turn off genes with the food that you're eating and other behaviors like exercise. So genes don't guarantee health or disease. If your dad, your grandpa, mom, aunt, uncle, whoever had a condition, doesn't necessarily mean that that is your fate. You have the ability to create your own health destiny with the choices that you make every day. So unfortunately, the situation that we're in right now is that a SAD diet is the default. And so the SAD diet is the standard American diet. And it is ultra-processed convenience foods, high in sugar, fat, salt, white flour, which is basically also sugar, preservatives, fried foods, soda. I mean, you can see in the picture, this looks like any fast food menu that you might come across, right? French fries, burgers, fried chicken, soda. Eating fast under stressful conditions has become the norm. And then very low in nutritional value. So fruits and vegetables sort of take a back seat. And we're eating a lot more foods that spike our blood sugar. So again, things like sodas, energy drinks, candy, that kind of thing. And really, where has this gotten us, right? So if we look at trends in obesity, this is an obesity map that is put forth by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and it color codes the states and their percentages of obesity. So what I want you to pay attention to here are the orange and red states, which indicate 30% or higher rates of obesity. So this is 2012, and if we just fast forward to 2014 and 2016, and then finally 2018, you see that slowly the orange and red is taking over. So the standard American diet, paired with more electronics, less physical activity, has caused or contributed to more obesity and other health conditions among our population. That goes for everybody. It goes for, you, your friends, your neighbors. No one is really immune from this unless you're sort of working against it. The alternative really is an ideal diet that provides fuel and not sludge for your system, that really supports your optimal mental and physical performance, reduces inflammation from day-to-day work, whether that's your whether that's your physical work or sort of recreational exercise, but reduces inflammation, prevents chronic disease like obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and nourishes your gut, which is sort of your epicenter of health. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But that's the ideal diet. That's really what we're looking for. And it's going to be the exact opposite of the standard American diet. Now, many times nutrition gets very complicated. What to eat, what to avoid. There's a journalist, Michael Pollan, who really put it very simply. And he said, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Really simplified it. And I'm going to break this down, but the point is it doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, if you look around the world at cultures that live the longest, with the lowest rates of chronic disease, they're following the same advice. And it really doesn't matter where they are, whether they're in the United States, Japan, Italy, Greece, Costa Rica, they're all sort of following this advice. And those areas are called the blue zones. If you don't know about the blue zones, really cool concept of hotspots around the world of really healthy populations. And when we look at these healthy populations, they are in fact eating mostly plants, and they're also eating enough but not too much. So eating till about 80% full to avoid overeating. And there are some other things in here. Those are the sort of the main food or nutrition related points. So let's sort of think about this a little bit. So eating food, a lot of people think, burgers, fries, soda is food, but we're going to sort of go back to foods that our grandparents would recognize. Okay, so edible things, think of these as single ingredient items at the grocery store: beans, oats, nuts, blueberries, spinach, eggs. And think about your grandparents. So this picture shows an old refrigerator with very few items. What would be in there that we would recognize as food? Maybe some eggs, some tomatoes, again, beans, salad, rather than pastry or a sandwich that has 1,000 ingredients. Eating not too much. So eating on purpose. Sort of backing away from the mindless eating and eating until you're 80% full. Now, the reason that you want to stop just shy of being full is that your stomach and your brain are connected. And so when you are full, your stomach actually sends signals to your brain to tell you, hey, we're full, no more room at the end, it's time to stop eating. But it takes a little while for that to happen. So if you're eating really quickly, you can actually eat faster than your stomach has time to send that message to your brain. And then by the time it does, you're really stuffed. So you really want to stop when you're about 80% full and allow your stomach a chance to catch up and send those signals to your brain that you're full. Eating on purpose, I think, thinking through those times when there may be candy in the office, or someone brings in, a box of donuts or a pizza. And of course, your senses tell you, oh man, this smells good. But if you're not hungry, you're not needing fuel at that time. So you really want to think about eating on purpose, using this hunger scale. This is just one of many, but I like this one because it's fairly simple. You want to eat when you're very hungry or a little hungry. If you get to ravenous, then a lot of times you're going to be overeating. And then stopping at around a 6. So feeling satisfied, not quite full yet. And then again, your stomach is going to catch up with your brain and probably tell you that you're full. If you feel somewhat disconnected from your hunger, which actually is pretty common, I think, with shift work and trying to, eat when you have the opportunity, you can use the plate method when you're eating. This is one way to sort of bypass or reconnect with your hunger signal, is probably a better word. So about half your plate should be fruits and vegetables. A quarter would be protein foods, and that could be, chicken, fish, beef, nuts, seeds, beans. And then a quarter of your food would be, or a quarter of your plate would be these more whole grain foods: rice, quinoa, whole grain pasta, whole grain bread, and then drinking some water. It's a good way to set up your plate. So you have bright colored, nutrient dense foods there on the left that are lower in calories but higher in nutrients. And so that can help you feel full and satisfied with more nutrient dense foods. Another way is to increase your awareness of what you're eating, what's going in, and how you're feeling with tracking. There are so many different tracking apps out there. This one is called Lose It, and I like it because it's fairly simple and it remembers things you eat on a regular basis. But if you find yourself sort of munching throughout the day, this is a good way to bring some awareness to what's going in. It shows you your nutrients, calories, whatever your weight goals may be, it tracks those for you. And you can see, if you go all day without eating and then you have, 1,000 calories at dinner, it's a nice way to bring awareness to how a snack may help you avoid overeating sort of later in the day. So eating mostly plants doesn't mean you have to eat only plants. You notice in the picture here we have a salad with some salmon on it. And so it is a plant-based meal. It is mostly plants, but does include some animal protein used more as a garnish rather than a centerpiece. So eating a plant-based diet doesn't mean being a vegan, doesn't mean avoiding necessarily your favorite foods. It just means eating a lot of vegetables, fruits, beans, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and then using your animal protein really to top it off rather than, having, let's say, a big porterhouse steak as your centerpiece and then maybe having a couple of, peas and maybe some corn on the side or something like that. So lots of veggies, fruits, and these other plant foods. And then for your animal protein, what we see in really healthy populations is animals that graze or eat green plants are going to be healthier. So they're going to have higher amounts of healthy fats. And that would be, cows who graze and eat grass, fish that eat algae, which is sort of a, green plant of the ocean. So thinking through animals that actually move around and eat grass rather than sort of factory farm grain-fed animals. And then looking at our beverages, mostly water, maybe some coffee, tea, wine, all these beverages are from plants. And naturally, they're not including any sugar, and they all have some nutritional value. The health benefits of a plant-based diet, when we really look at it, you have a reduced risk of many of these most common chronic diseases like cancer, heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes. We know that diets high in fiber and phytonutrients, which are nutrients found in plants, promote good gut health. When your gut is functioning well, so think of your gut as sort of this long hollow tube that kind of runs from top to bottom. So including your esophagus, your stomach, your intestines. When you're including a diet that's high in plant foods, it's going to be high in fiber and these phytonutrients. It's going to improve regularity and also enhance immune function. So your immune system is housed in your gut. About 70% of your immune system really is in your gut. So this plant-based diet really does help foster good gut health, which impacts the rest of your health. So the gut is home to, sort of a plethora of bacteria that help digestion, immunity, even synthesizing some vitamins that you need, supporting growth and development, and also communicating with your brain. So there is something called the gut-brain connection, and good gut health does translate into or contribute to optimal brain health or mental health. So the plant-based diet really does support a good, healthy, diverse bacteria in your gut that can translate to some of these health benefits. I talked a little bit about staying hydrated, really making sure that you're drinking plenty of water. There's a lot of attention paid to this with sort of special products and really fancy drinks and that sort of thing. But first and foremost, drinking enough water so that you're maintaining dilute urine is a good first step in staying hydrated. So the darker your urine, your body is sort of indicating, I don't have any water to spare to dilute, these waste products. But as it gets lighter, that's, on the flip side, your body saying, hey, I have plenty of water, so I can get rid of some of it. 64 ounces is 8 cups or more per day. For women, that tends to be on the lower end. For men, you probably need a little bit more, like 9 to 13 cups per day. And, you do want to make sure you get good sleep. So cutting off the fluids before bed, an hour or two before sleep is ideal if you're able to do that so that your sleep is not interrupted. What counts? So we have water, herbal tea, decaf coffee and tea count. Caffeine does have a diuretic effect, meaning it is more dehydrating. So not that you can't have caffeine, but the decaf fluids are going to be the best options for staying hydrated. If you are in higher temperatures, if you're exercising or working in a physically strenuous environment for longer than 60 minutes, drinks that have some electrolytes are a good idea to replace some of the salt that's lost in sweat. So liquid IV, that's one I like. There's a product called Hoist that I like as well. There's a lot of different options, but really you do want whatever you're drinking to taste a little bit salty. If it doesn't taste salty, then it's probably been altered to have maybe more sugar or more artificial sweeteners to cater more towards taste rather than functionality. So this liquid IV, it does taste a little bit salty, but it's going to be more effective at rehydrating you. What about muscle repair and recovery? So after we have sort of nailed down these really nice foundational concepts, we can sort of build on that with some optimizing of what you're taking in on a day-to-day basis. So we talked about, the basics, meals, things to include, things to avoid. For muscle repair and recovery, protein is really important. About 20 to 30 grams at mealtime. Up to 40 is fine. Any more than that, it's not necessarily harmful, but you're really not going to be using it very efficiently. So if you can aim for about 20 to 30 grams at mealtime, which would be, about a chicken breast about the size of your palm, or maybe a little bigger than a deck of cards, a couple scoops of protein powder, or a couple of eggs. Like those are all things that would sort of meet that requirement. In particular, after exercise, there's a window of about 2 hours or so where a protein will really maximize your protein synthesis and recovery. So that could be exercise that is in a gym, or it could be physical activity that's associated with your job. So most often I think a protein shake is really useful for this time period when maybe you're not yet hungry, but you want to get that, or not yet hungry enough to eat a meal, but you're wanting to get that protein in. But could also be, solid food if that's what if you're able to eat. Sometimes harder workouts or, more stressful work environments, you may not feel that hunger right away. The other thing to include for muscle repair and recovery would be antioxidant-rich foods and omega-3 fats, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. So phytonutrients are plant compounds that reduce inflammation. They can repair DNA damage that's done to cells. They can regulate genes. And within this category of phytonutrients, you have several antioxidants, which you've probably heard of. So beta carotene, for example, found in orange fruits and vegetables, is a precursor to vitamin A. It is an antioxidant and also considered a phytonutrient. So to maximize these nutrients, you really want to incorporate as many colors as possible most days of the week. So you're having a big salad, or having some berries, maybe some green tea, some sweet potatoes, a couple of clementines for a snack. You can really incorporate these colors a lot of different ways. If you're not a salad person, that's fine. If you're not a smoothie person, you can eat the foods that you enjoy and try and incorporate more of these colors. What about omega-3 fats? So we've heard a lot, I'm sure, about fish oil supplements. And that's one way to get your omega-3s. But it's important to understand why they might be important. So in the US, most people are getting more omega-6 fats, which are also an essential fat, but we just happen to get plenty of the omega-6s from refined oils like soybean oil, corn oil, palm oil, and food products made with these oils. So if you pick up any chip, cracker, granola bar, uh, bread in the grocery store and read the ingredient list, about 99% of the time you're going to see some form of vegetable oil that's, soy, corn, cottonseed, something like that. And so we get all of these oils without even thinking that we're eating something that has fat in it. The omega-3 fats, on the other hand, are more anti-inflammatory. And so the omega-3 fats can come from animals, so wild fish, grass-fed meat, dairy products from grass-fed animals, or plant sources. So walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds are all sources of omega-3s. So in the United States, we get about 25 grams of omega-6 fats to every 1 gram of omega-3 fat. In healthy populations with low disease rates, so if you look at Japan from my earlier map, their ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is closer to 4 grams of omega-6 to every 1 gram of omega-3. So much less of a pro-inflammatory situation there. So if we're following the standard American diet, this is one of the ways that it is inflammatory, is that we just get an abundance of these omega-6 fats. So working in some of these omega-3 food sources can be a great way to combat that. And then, of course, taking out some of the more processed foods that have these refined oils. Now, with all of these things that we've gone through today, personalization is really key. So your environment and your lifestyle interact with your genes, and so how you respond to these different changes and what works for you is going to be different, right? It's not going to be the same for everyone. And so, the cardinal rule of performance nutrition is to personalize and really make it work for you. So you want to balance the guidelines from large population studies with your own personal experience and how you feel your best. I'm a big proponent of listening to your body, making sure that you test the waters before you have to sort of put them to work in the real world. So, for example, if you're a fireman and you're normally looking at different sports drinks to stay hydrated for sort of a long shift or a very active shift, maybe testing out some of those electrolyte beverages before you actually have to put them into practice. And then developing a routine. So, making healthy choices the default is really important when you don't have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of capacity for a lot of capacity for planning and doing things differently on a day-to-day basis. So in this picture here, we have some meal prepped chicken, rice, vegetables. It doesn't have to be this exact meal, but if you take a little bit of time on a day that you have off to throw together, a couple of healthy dishes that you can take with you or heat up or eat, just before you leave, it makes it a whole lot easier to eat healthy than you have 15 minutes before you need to leave and opening your refrigerator to see what you can toss together. So whenever you can, making those healthy choices the default, and the more you practice that, the more permanent it will become as part of your lifestyle. So in summary, you want to make sure that you're eating for now and for later. So not just what maybe tastes good or entices your senses, but also what tastes good and serves your mental and physical health so that you stay healthy for years to come. We want to focus on these basics first: adequate calories, hydration, having a balance of good carbs, protein, and healthy fats. And how do we do this? Eating real whole foods, not processed food-like products. Eating until you're satisfied but not stuffed, so really supplying enough fuel but not too much. And choosing high-quality, nutrient-dense foods. So we talked about vegetables, fruits, wild fish, nuts, seeds, grass-fed meat, these kinds of things. And this is really going to support recovery and performance gains. Finally, we want to experiment, personalize, and create a routine that works for you. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation on fuel, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Okay, so we have an exclusive offer for all OTOA members, and that is our reconnaissance package, which you will get free with your membership after the 30-day trial period has expired. So as the name suggests, our reconnaissance package will give you a strategic advantage to improving your performance and wellness. Once your 30-day trial period has expired with your membership officially goes live and you'll receive the coupon. As you can see in the table, the package includes everything you need to get started. So we hope you will join us, and we look forward to having you as part of our FMR family.
Thank you, and have a nice day.